If we keep denying our spiritual nature, we're going to give into our animalistic side. And we're going to see the results that we see daily in the news. One virus matters: our ego. Our fallacy that we can claim ownership of right and wrong. Clever deceit is still tempting us. That truth is nothing more than a feeling. My job is to assist the truth, to remove the shroud of opinion and reveal our spirit. The battle for our souls is now. My name is Monsignor Cantuzanu. Game on. Are you happy? Are you happy with what's going on in our world, with what's going on? Certainly it is a very turbulent time. And one of the things that I've noticed with all that's happening, and we seem to hear so little from the church, and I thought it's so important to hear the voice of faith, because the church has so much to offer. And I thought, well, you know what? Here I am as a pastor. Let me share some thoughts with you to contribute to our reflection upon what's going on in the world around us. And two thoughts came to mind. First, I was remembering a time in my first parish where my primary responsibility was to visit the local hospital. I was primarily a chaplain. And as one particular day, we received a call because there was a person who had gone in for a routine test. And I don't know exactly what happened, but something went wrong and they were dying. And so I was called to administer last rites. And I still remember when I got to the hospital, the nurse kind of like sheepishly said that I couldn't enter. The doctor would not let me in. It wasn't until afterwards that I kind of reflected on that moment, what was happening. The poor doctor, God bless him, was arrogant. And I think he did not want to admit defeat, because for me to go in would have been to recognize, that things were out of control, and that he was losing the patient. So I think that symbolically he could not accept that. And so it wasn't until afterwards, unfortunately, when the person died, that I went in to administer the last rites. But it taught me a valuable lesson, the danger of arrogance. We're thinking like, I have this under control, and not being willing to look to other people for help, and certainly, ultimately, to God. And I see some of that going on. I think we can give into a very arrogant spirit and not open ourselves to God. And so the church is calling out to us and saying, look to me, look to me for answers. And along those same lines, a part of that arrogance is, I think, denying our spiritual nature. We see so much preoccupation and obsession with trying to be secular that we're denying who we are. We are essentially spiritual beings. We need God, and when that is missing, we're not ourselves. We are not happy. We learned a valuable lesson from St. Augustine. Many of you know him, and you know his story. He tried everything that a lot of people are inviting us to try today. He was popular, he was intelligent, and he tried the life of pleasure, but he was not happy. He was miserable in spirit. And he had that incredible conversion story that perhaps some of you know, where he was in a state of anguish, and he heard a child singing tole lege, meaning take and read. And hearing those words, he picked up the scriptures, and he opened to Romans 13:13 and heard the now dramatic words: it is not in wantonness and drunkenness and orgies and promiscuity, but in putting on the Lord Jesus Christ. And that was the answer that he was seeking all of his life. He had been denying his spiritual nature. And it wasn't until he finally reached that moment of crisis that he opened his heart, humbled himself before God, and that peace flooded into him, and began his conversion, becoming a bishop, a great doctor of the church, and a great saint. And of course, he penned that most famous saying, "O God, you have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." How true that is. God has made us for himself, and we are restless until we rest in him. And the culture is not letting us rest in him. And so the church is crying out and telling to us, indeed, if we keep denying our spiritual nature, we're going to give into our animalistic side, and we're going to see the results that we see daily in the news. So let us turn to the church, which opens the door to the heart of God for us. We need to be humble, not arrogant, and we need to allow ourselves to be open to the presence of God, to rest in him. And until we do that, we're going to continue to struggle. St. Augustine, our hearts are restless until they rest in you. God bless.